Welcome to Laughing Griffin Crafting. This is the vinyl fencing project that I did recently. This is where I installed some fencing for my aunt. She had an estimate for $2,000 to do this. I did it on just with my labor and the parts that was already available and a few parts that was bought at Lowe's. And here is that fencing that was bought at Lowe's. These were to make the gates. Here we're at the work site. As you can see on the left-hand side, this is a fence that was new that was put in by the neighbor, and they basically gave my aunt the rest of the fencing that was there, and she kept it. Here's our expert fencing engineer who's going to be helping me today, and this was all of the components that they left. Except for, of course, this component, which was the fencing that was purchased. And here it is. If you wanted to check which one it is, you can pause the video and go buy it yourself if you wanted to. But yeah, all this whole fencing was left by the neighbor when they had their large 6-foot fence installed. And my aunt just kept it, and she wanted to just have it be placed in. And you can see it matches perfectly her fencing that's on the other side. So this took a while to install, but now we're just getting it leveled correctly. All these holes had to be dug out for the post to be put in. And first one's in here. It took actually quite a while to get this all placed in and made level. Filled up with dirt on the inside. And of course, there's problems with every single post that we put in. In this case, there was a lot of the foundation from the house was coming extended out away from the house. So cuts were needed to be made in order to fit the posts. On other locations, there were sprinkler system installations that we had to deal with, as well as roots. So many roots, and a lot of cutting and digging and redigging and cutting of roots had to occur to get all of the posts in. Here's it is when we're trying to get the posts actually kind of set up. And here we are getting the hinges. Had to get those all level and installing these hinges. They were from, I believe, Lowe's, possibly Home Depot. I can't remember which one, but they were already pre-painted white, which was perfectly fine for this project, installing the lower ones here. And as you can see here now is we just have to install the piece of fencing that was left over. Our gate is in place and it works, although a certain amount of land has to be cleared out. It does have to be a low gate, as the whole purpose of this project was to prevent a small dog from getting out. And later, with the idea of this just being dirt, I came back at another time and installed some basically tile on the bottom so that the dog couldn't actually dig out, and those tiles will eventually be put underneath sod so that the dog can't get out. And of course, we're going to measure and cut appropriately for the size of the fence, because the size was not, of course, accurate. These posts, by the way, again, taking a long time to get in and out with tree branches and such, or rather roots. So here it is, all kind of put together, but as you can see, there are some final touches to be put into it. Easy to get in and out. And we're going to install the other hardware, which is the latch, as you see doing here. And of course, getting them lined up, getting them measured to just the right height. And doing all of this actually took about 2 work days to get done. So, I don't know, 16 hours or so. Quite a while to get all this installed. Anyways, I have to make the finishing touches. So here are some cut pieces from the fence, previous, and the outside of this is not so great, so I'm going to be using the inside. Basically, I'm going to be making covers to install on the areas that are outstanding, so it will look actually nice and pretty. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring things out and tracing a certain amount of space around each of these components so that when I glue the pieces on, it'll be all covered up. Try to hacksaw, that takes too long, so here we are using mechanical means to get the job done. And a little trick here to get the final cut, I'm using a drill bit that's slightly bigger than the actual size of the saw. So I'll have a hole with which to put into and actually be able to complete the last cut. And I actually will show myself doing this here, and you'll see in this manner it's really a lot easier to get that cut done, just like that, nice and easy. And here it is, all covered, all cleaned up. And of course I use the inside is now going to be the outside face so that all those scratches are gone. And here again I'm doing all of the measurements, a little bit careful scene so you can see exactly what it is that I did. Basically I trace out an amount and then a certain amount on the outside of it. I think it was 1/8 of an inch or so, and here it is all drawn out so you get the general idea of how this was done. Once again, cutting with the jig, and again using the technique of using the drill to create a hole, a little bit better angle so you can see it, how this is done. And again using power saw to get a nice cut piece that'll be covering up. Now over here, this is the end, this is a gate piece, the ends that we didn't use, and I need to create something that's going to go over this hole here so that it is all pretty much covered up. So I'm going to use basically the same material, the leftover post, to cut that out to fit. So here I am tracing it, darkening in the line so I know where to cut, and once again getting all the cuts done, and I now have my pieces with which to work in. And here is the work site. This is the other side of the building where the other gate is, and those pieces of holes that are there are what I'm going to be covering up. And of course, going to use the Dremel to try to bevel the edges here so that when you're walking through the gate, if you happen to be getting up close to it, you're not going to be hitting it and peeling it off, as well as it being a little bit nicer. Also, there's a couple of garbage cans over there, and if you're going through with the garbage can, didn't want them to hit necessarily, so rounded edges put on. Using this type of Gorilla Glue, I guess some of the directions say that you have to use water for it to adhere it correctly, so there I am putting some water on, and now putting on tape to keep it in place so this can cure, because it does take some time to cure, about 24 hours I think was what was written on. And of course, when I was placing it on, it was about to come off. And here it is, just going in super fast speed for the gate sections. So much easier when you just do a time lapse to get the work done. I suppose that you could use the PVC type glue, but that stuff is generally purple, and that I didn't want to use because I didn't want to have to try to paint it over or try to match colors. And here it is in place. It's just going to sit there, and 24 hours, the homeowner, my aunt, will take it off. So I think this was a pretty good project, considering that the estimates for this was $2,000, and we did it with just the cost of 2 gates and the hinge components that we bought. So I don't know, it was about maybe $200 altogether. We had the fencing, other material that had been left over by the neighbors, so everything kind of worked out really nice. This side, of course, looks better, as the fence matches the fence that is on her side as opposed to the other side. But both work, both are functional. No problem so far with the pieces that I had glued on. Hope to see you next time. Subscribe, like, and keep looking for more of my videos. Thanks, have a good day.